okay team or pretty good team in Auburn, and then everybody else. So in the worst SEC year in 10 years, they might get 2 in the playoff. In the best Big Ten year in years, they might get 0 in the playoff because Penn State then lost later in the day. So, this is a tough day for the Big Ten now.
And finally, the Rams put up 51 points against the woeful, and I mean woeful, New York Football Giants yesterday. It's starting to look like the Giants might make wholesale changes, i.e. clean house, i.e. fold their hand, i.e. start from scratch. All right, I think you get my point. As Ben McAdoo mentioned, he might turn to rookie quarterback Davis Webb. Nick, is it time for the Giants to move on from Eli Manning?
I would play Davis Webb down the stretch at least a few games. You spend a 3rd-round pick on him. This isn't a 7th-round pick. I think a lot of people hear, the Giants have a rookie quarterback because Geno's their backup right now. They think he must have been a late-round pick. This was a 2nd-day pick of the NFL draft, a guy you obviously saw some value in because you can get good players in the 3rd round. Right. You took him. I would at least let him play a few games down the stretch. And then this offseason, here's what I would do. I would call up Denver. I would call up Jacksonville. Jacksonville's probably going to go 11-5 and then get crushed in the playoffs because of Blake Bortles. I would call up teams that are ready to win right now and say, hey, just curious, do you have any interest in Eli Manning? Because right now, the Eli Manning and Giants trajectories are misaligned. Eli Manning is in the final stages, and the Giants need to be bringing in young guys that can be building towards something. So I'm not saying you just cut him. Just forget Eli. Get out of here. But I would gauge the market for him as soon as this season ends.
And I would probably depend on 2 veteran, especially coaches and evaluators. That's either Steve Keim, the general manager in Arizona, him and Bruce Arians. If Bruce decides to come back, I know he wants a veteran quarterback. They don't have an understudy there for Carson Palmer. And I got to go down to Jacksonville with Tom Coughlin. Man is very familiar with Eli. I think the Giants are going to keep Eli, but these are 2 of the people that I would call this offseason if I was trying to move Eli, because I believe that they're more apt to jump at the deal with Eli because the team that they have surrounding them. Larry Fitzgerald would be very excited about potentially playing with Eli, and then Tom Coughlin and Eli getting back together with a Jacksonville team that they might have more talent than the Giants.
I think they definitely do have more talent.
I think it might be an inviting proposition for someone like Eli who has 2 Super Bowl championships.
Go ahead, Jenna.
Could the story be any sweeter or interesting or adorable if he went to Denver?
Denver?
He went to Denver and kind of followed the exact footsteps that his brother did?
Well, that's why I would call John Elway, because he's done it with a quarterback on a 2nd team, or Tom Coughlin because he obviously has a relationship with Eli. Let me ask you this before we move on. You're talking about places if they were to shop them. If Jerry Reese called you up, Chris Carter, and much like Butch Carter's a consultant for the New York Knicks now, if Chris Carter became a consultant for the New York Giants,
yes,
what would you recommend they do? Stand pat with Eli or gauge the market?
I'd be like, Eli, you want to stay here? I need a little reduction in your salary. If not, we're going to move you. You got 2 years left on your deal. You've been great. We've seen other quarterbacks do it. We need a little money back from you.
His brother did it in Denver.
We need a little money back from you to be able to fill this roster. You can finish your career here. I give more guarantees. All right, I'll take that base salary into guarantees and tell them it would help you. It would be in your best interest. That's what I would do.
Is there pressure to start him then? At that point, if he stays, he's going to be your starter for the next 2 years?
Eli's not sitting on the bench for the Giants.
Yeah. So you're going to pay less money, but sacrifice
Eli Manning put them 2 Lombardi trophies, the recent ones they got, he put them in there. All right, and I know the Mara family, they will be sensitive to Eli because you get to a certain point well, you're beyond the average player with the relationship. And what he's done for the Giants, there's more than one conversation you can have with a player like Eli out of respect for him.
So he would have to agree to a trade.
He would.
No, he don't have to.
No, his point is if he's on the roster week 1 of next year, he's your starter. There's no quarterback competition in New York.
After trading away one of Cam Newton's best offensive weapons, the Panthers then turned to Cam Newton to figure it out how to win without one of his best offensive weapons. So he did. Panthers beat the Falcons 2017. Cam only threw for 137 yards, but he also ran for 86 yards and a touchdown. So the Panthers are now 6-3. Here's Cam after the game.
When the Panthers are emotionless, that's when we good things don't happen. So whether you got to fake it, whether you got to do whatever you got to do, if we can get the Bank of America Stadium with a pulse, that's when we're at our best.
We've played pretty average football, and our record's pretty average. And so, that's where we're at right now. Do I think we can be better? For sure.
So Cam Newton is at a point now where he is referring to his team and himself in the third person.
I think he's been at that point for quite some time.
Takes a lot of effort and time to get to that point. Nick, not a lot of help for Cam. Is there too much on his shoulders as he moves through the season now, trying to get it all done by himself?
No.
This is the way we're going to do business.
This is what the Panthers need to do.
Yes.
Like, this is how they need to win football.
It's the only way they're going to win.
It's the only way they're going to win. And yesterday was an interesting game because as far as passer rating goes, as throwing stats go, Cam was not good. He had a 71 rating, completed just over 50% of his passes. He had less than 6 yards per attempt. By no metric were Cam's throwing numbers good. But I also think you can count on one hand how many quarterbacks in the NFL would have walked out of that stadium with a win yesterday. With the weapons he had, he's throwing. Here are the guys who caught passes for the Panthers. Devin Funchess, a tight end turned wide receiver. Christian McCaffrey, a hybrid player. Curtis Samuel, second-round rookie hybrid player. That's it. The other guys he threw the ball to, Russell Shepard, Ed Dixon, and someone known as Kalen Clay. Like, there were no weapons there. Their running game was, again, totally ineffective. They kept trying to give Jonathan Stewart the ball, and he kept coughing up the football. And Cam said, I got it. Now, the defense is great, and I give the defense a ton of credit. But Cam's dual threat, running and throwing, was exactly what the Panthers needed. And that is the only way the Panthers are going to score enough points to win, at least until Greg Olsen.
But the only way that works is if Cam goes into every single game and is actually consistent, which is the one thing that we have not seen from Cam Newton. So you can't put all the pressure on him to will himself a win and then be inconsistent.
Jenna, we
for the
saw
last
him
couple
be
games.
consistent in 2015 when this is what they were asking him to do. Run the ball when you want to run the ball. Throw deep when you want to throw deep. Just go out there and play. Like, where he was super inconsistent this year is when they were trying to adjust the offense to don't take as many hits, don't run the ball as much, throw to your backs more. That's not where Cam's great.
What do you think, CC?
Well, when Cam was the MVP, their offense wasn't this way. All right. They were far more explosive. They could run the ball and throw the ball when they want to. They didn't have stat lines like this where he only had 13 completions, and they got very lucky. Julio Jones dropped a touchdown pass. They're supposed to lose that game. So we can sit here and put the team on his shoulders, but they don't have many playmakers. This is all they have. It's just like Aaron Rodgers, just a different version. All right. You're going to have to make all these plays because what we've given you outside, Funchess, we talked about it last week. Him and Kelvin Benjamin, they have the same attributes. But Funchess is not a number one receiver. He never will be a number one receiver in my book. So they did have a number one receiver in Kelvin Benjamin. Cam made a great adjustment and I'm going to start running this football because I can't trust who I'm throwing it to. McCaffrey out of the backfield. Yes. Can he keep that up running the football? We know we can put him in the slot and throw him the football. And Curtis Samuel, he has been a running back or a slot running back his whole career. How productive can he be in the passing game? These are all questions that we're going to have to answer moving forward. But Carolina is very fortunate with that defense and Cam's legs to be able to win that game yesterday.
You mentioned Julio Jones. Let's talk a little bit about what's going on with the Falcons. They are just bleeding at this point. They can't seem to get back on track. Their star wide receiver isn't catching passes, and their former MVP candidate just does not look like that. Talk to me about the...
I'm not worried about Julio, and I know Chris can break down better than anybody, really, what happened on that touchdown, missed touchdown, so I'll let you do that. On the Falcons as a whole, 4 out of 5 games, they've scored 17 points or less. This is one of the 7 highest scoring teams in the history of football. They brought back all their meaningful skill position players. They brought back their quarterback. He's supposed to be in the prime of his career. This team got off to 10-0 lead, then didn't see the end zone or a point again until late in the fourth quarter. The offense is broken. People can point out the Julio drop. Man, Matt Ryan said it correctly after the game. He said 100 times out of 100, Julio makes that catch. Turns out it's 99 out of 100.
That's not nearly true. Yeah, because the result of it.
Right, but Julio's not the problem. There's a lot of problems they have. Julio's not the problem. People were saying, CC, that Julio's play was a dead drop. They can't believe he dropped it. You told me something super fascinating about once you saw the ball in the air, what you were thinking.
Right. Let's take a look at the video. There's some things in the video that I thought were pretty kind of alarming. As you watch Julio's wide open. He's run a double move. They ran a stick and go on the safety. He's wide open. But watch how when the ball starts to come down, he lets the ball play him. Instead of reaching up with his hands, the way Julio normally does, his stride begins to change. So he becomes uncomfortable where the ball is. So now the ball starts drifting over his left eye. When the ball drifts over, your dominant eye takes over. So you only have one eye on the football. All right. I knew he was going to be uncomfortable with the catch. I'm not surprised he dropped it because I could see he was letting the ball play him. He didn't reach out, let the ball play him. Don't let the ball hit your pads, off of his pads.
Hold on. You got to keep going here. What do you mean the left eye thing?
This is the thing. When you're running straight down the field, all right, the quarterback is throwing the football. The quarterback's right-handed. So he throws the ball. The ball is spinning from left to right. So Julio misjudged it. He thinks the ball is going to come over his shoulder, which is the blind spot, but the ball bounces right here. He misjudged it, so he couldn't see it. All right? Your dominant eye, when the ball comes over your head, your dominant eye takes over. It's very, very complicated, but that's why you see a lot of drops when guys wide open. You see, he misjudged it. He thought the ball was going to come over his shoulder like Willie Mays. The ball came down on his right arm.
All right, one more thing. You talked about his stride. His stride, I don't know.
Yes, about the 20-yard line, his gait changed. That means he wasn't comfortable running. All right, the field was a little bit soggy. All right, not a great field there in Carolina, but he became uncomfortable because his shoulders were turned too far back to the quarterback. Keep your shoulders to the goal line. Put your chin on your shoulder and turn your head. Don't turn your body because you're running against your momentum. And that's what I saw. I'm not surprised he dropped it. Julio typically does catch this, though.
I will just say this. I thought the exact same thing you did, but I just feel like you said it better than I did. But I
watched that whole thing. I was like, his dominant eye screwed him.
That's what I said. I said, look at his gait.
Say, man, that's a
Don't
bad
move
drop
your
by
body.
Julio Jones.
Come on, Julio, just your neck. Gosh.
That's not Hall of Fame hands.
Very obvious.
Next
Seems
level.
obvious. Coming up, we love you, CC.
You know why he dropped
you're
it? He was
here.
thinking about, man, Cam's after game wardrobe's going to be so fly.
Are the Cowboys now the best team in the
That's next
NFC?
level.
That's next on First Things First.
Cam looks a mess.
Cam looked great in that press conference.
Cam looks
How
like he's
dare
broke.
you?
He looks like he shopped at the flea